Hello and welcome to Family Focus with Maureen. I'm your host, Maureen Nunn. Family Focus is a show about parenting strategies that deals with effective tips and advice for parents and their families. In 2010, this year, the high school graduating class will be the most in our nation's history. And because of these huge amounts of graduating seniors, they have been affectionately referred to as Tidal Wave 2. Over 1.5 million students are taking the SAT tests, and of those, 41% are reporting an A- average or better. So, is there any wonder that high school students are frenzied, frazzled, stressed, and they have a ton of questions about where are they going to go to college, how are they going to apply, where are they going to apply? Do I really want to go to college? How do I pay for college? And the whole college admission process. But there is hope. And my two special guests today are both certified college specialists, and they are here to answer those questions about how to navigate the entire college admission process. And later on in the show, we will be hearing from three high school students who are applying to different colleges, and they've gone through the whole process. My very special guests, I'm just thrilled and honored to have you here today, are Dr. Wendy Gilbertson and Suzanne Condon. You've also written a column for the past 10 years for the Palos Verdes Peninsula News on Get the College Edge. So I'm going to applaud both of you for being here. Thank you so much. This is really great, the whole college admission process, and both of you are experts in this field. So I understand too that statistics for both of you that you've had phenomenal success. 99% of the students that you work with get into the college of their choice, which is super bravo. So let's start with the beginning questions on what can parents do to specifically help their students with this whole overwhelming college application process. Da-dum.
Well, I think first of all, we're seeing parents and students think about the process earlier and earlier. In the past, we never had middle school parents call us and ask for advice, but we're seeing that to be more of a trend now. So probably the most important thing is to develop good study habits early on and really read. Once you get into your junior year and you start taking these standardized tests and you're taking the critical reading, it's very difficult to catch up. But if you're reading from a young age on, you're learning your vocabulary words and you'll be in great shape for the SAT. So read anything. The other thing is to really be informed. There is so much information floating around out there. And I jotted down, Wendy and I took a minute to jot down some of the kinds of questions that we hear on a daily basis. And it's enough to make your head spin. I mean, it would make my head spin, and I'm a college counselor. We hear things like, what the heck is a legally binding contract for college? What's early action? Why does Stanford have single choice early action? What's rolling admission? Which schools use a common application, and what's a supplement to a common application? Oh no, what's this secondary school report I need? Is that the same as my counselor report? I need a final report? I need a mid-year report? They're asking for my school CEEB code. Uh-oh, do I have a statewide ID number? Should I apply for the Educational Opportunity Program? Did I take an EAP test? Should I super score my ACT? Does this school let me score choice my SAT? Should I take psychology as my major, or is that going to be impacted and affect me in the process? Do I put my teacher recommendation forms in writing, or is my teacher going to do them online electronically? What is this supplement to the common application? How important is it? How do I go about submitting my documentation for a learning disability? Many kids have that issue. What's a deferral? Oh no, I'm on a wait list. How do I clear a wait list? How do you get merit money? And what about a gap year? I'm starting to hear that. So there's so many things that it makes your head spin. And these are just, this is really only a few of them. So our advice to parents would be really careful about talking about the C word. Because if you talk about it too soon, too much, your kids might just tune you out.
I remember when both of our kids were going through the college process, they would just my kids would just hold their ears if I said the word college.
And they stopped talking to us. We probably were the worst offenders. So we're warning you as parents who've been through this to watch how much you say the word college and be careful. Have realistic goals and expectations for your student.
If your child has a B average, don't go out and buy them a Harvard sweatshirt or a Stanford sweatshirt, because the key is to make them feel good about themselves. You don't want to make them feel like they've failed.
This is, when you were reading this off, I, honest to goodness, was trying really hard to understand it. I thought you were speaking a foreign language.
Yeah, that's what it sounds
and my
like.
head spun so, and I thought to myself, you know what, can I go now? Can I just leave? Or can you two just carry on for like a whole series on this?
Well,
because
it's
just
become
unbelievable.
so difficult for these kids.
So we know what the parents can do, and I love what you said, both of you, about the fact that, you know, just make the kids feel good about themselves and try to help them as much as the parents can. But what can the students do, particularly for their getting ready for college?
Well, when a student comes in to see us, one of the very first things that we do is we identify what it is about that student that's special. Now, you might think
good thing.
a
That's a
lot of
great
kids
thing.
will come in and say, I don't have anything special, I don't have any talents, I don't have any interests. In fact, boys are the worst. They come in, they're like,
Should they be listening?
and they want, you know, what do you like? I like video games, whatnot. So our goal, our main goal, is to help these kids find something that they're interested in. And once we can find that interest and spark that interest, we can develop that. And what we're working towards is personal growth and development. We are not working towards the end result of getting into college. What we're interested in is watching young people today grow in their true potential as a person. And in return, if they do that, when they go to apply for college, they're going to be an interesting person, and the college is going to be looking at them in a different way.
So you're not only certified college counselors, you're also certified college detectives to be able to work with these kids to find out.
Well, we do.
Last summer, it was funny, we had, I had a parent call up and say, a very disgruntled parent, by the way, my son is going into 12th grade and doesn't have any interest at all. What can I do? Can you meet with him? And I said, sure. So this handsome young man comes into our office, and the first thing that I said was, what are you interested in? Mm-hmm. And he said, nothing. I said, come on, you have to be interested in something. What's your favorite subject? Nothing. I said, okay, sit down. I said, cover your eyes and pretend that it's a couple of months from now and it's summer. Where do you want to be?
I love
and
this.
what do you want to do? And he turned to me with his big, gorgeous eyes, and he said, Dr. Gilbertson, surround me by beautiful women. And I'm thinking, what am I going to do now? So I immediately thought about it and picked up the phone and called the local orthodontist and said, would you take a free intern for the summer? And they said, sure. So I turned to him and I said, you're going to be working for the orthodontist, and you're going to be working with every beautiful girl in Palos Verdes. And his eyes just lit up. And you know that in 2 weeks, this kid had a paid job and thought he was going to major in pre-dentistry. Now keep in mind, that doesn't happen every time, but that's just one example.
But I like your specific exercises too, about closing your eyes and think about where you want to be this summer and how your life is going to be. I mean, those are great things to do to really get a child thinking about what he wants to do.
That's the detective work.
That's the detective
That's what
work?
we're good at.
That's really, really
Having
good.
kids ourselves, we're good at the detective work. And we can get it out of them. There's never been a student that's walked in our office that we cannot find something special about them. We love every single one of them. And every student has something to offer a college, 100%.
And what about the student then? Not the student who clearly doesn't know where he wants to go or what he wants to do, but the student who has special needs. How do you find out about that college, or how do they find out?
Well, there are a lot of students that have special needs. We actually work with many kids who have learning disabilities, whether that be ADHD, ADD, processing problems, dyslexia, visual problems, hearing problems. And we love those kids because those kids come into our office feeling like they don't have many options, if any.
Let me just add one thing. Also, sometimes they come in and they don't know they have these problems. And having been through this many times and reading so many transcripts, We work closely with psychologists, and my graduate degree, I took a lot of classes in this area. Oftentimes I have to tell the parents, I think it would be really beneficial to get some educational testing. And then they find out, and like a light bulb went off in their head because they feel so much better about themselves.
So you are a complete work with the student, help guide and direct the student, help with, that myriad of questions that sounds like a foreign language, and then have the student really eliminate a lot of the stress, a lot of the frenziedness, a lot of the frazzledness, and then work to really guide and direct that student. Wow.
Our
I wish I
goal
were
is
going to
that.
college again.
Oh,
I wish I
no,
had met
you
you
don't.
then.
Trust me. We're
I wish I
asking.
was.
We're asking
really
so much
Yes.
of kids, though, in the process. The process is just.
Why is it so it's more competitive? I mean,
It is.
we represent here 3 generations.
Right.
Why is it more competitive than ever?
I think there's several reasons why. I think first of all, we look at the baby boomers, a huge group of our population that had their children all at the same time, and those kids are all now going to college. That's number one. So we're seeing the highest number of kids in our nation's history wanting to attend college. We also have a pretty substantial influx of kids internationally coming over.
Right.
And then, like you've said, Maureen, the frenzy, the media, you can't get away from it. You pick up a newspaper, you open a magazine, you watch TV, and there's some sort of hype about how competitive and how difficult it is to get into college. So what happens? You've got all the moms talking amongst moms, and the kids are overhearing this. They're little sponges. They're hearing this from a very young age, and they're stressed out, and they're feeling like a little hopeless, and they're scared. And so what happens is, in return, when they go to apply to college, they'll come in and they'll want to apply to 10, 15, 20 schools because they don't think they're going to get in. So we have volumes of applications now coming through these admissions offices, which just creates more and more competition.
So how do you both handle your stress? I think you have a great sense of humor. I'm seeing from your beautiful smiles and the fact that you have just a really good sense of balancing that
Well,
because there's a lot of stress
there
from what
is
you're
a lot of
involved in
stress.
too.
I think the key is we try to get to know the kids when we have them in our office a lot.
And you mentioned too about the fact that you had read thousands and thousands of essays. You've been on the prestigious, do I say that other name of that school, UCLA comprehensive reading team, and
Right.
read so many essays. So what would you strongly advise the student who's writing that best essay, that most important essay?
The best advice I could give to a student that's about to sit down and write a college essay is to be yourself. Be yourself. I mean, that's the key. Just
Tell it in your own voice. You know?
make it your own voice. Make your story come alive on paper. And frankly, the most effective college essays are tell a story. They tell a story. They perhaps capture a brief moment in time or a significant event that changed your life and demonstrated like your originality, your creativity, your intelligence as a person and as a writer.
These are great tips, Wendy. Really, they are, because that's a
Yeah.
very big stressor too. Suzanne?
Yeah, well, the essay is just so important. It's your only chance to put out in front of the admissions committee who you are as a person and what's in your heart. And that's what we look for with kids, is what's in their heart and what can we bring forward to show the admissions committee how this child is different, how they're special, how they're unique. And again, I say, every single student has those qualities. You just have to find them.
And they have to remember when they're writing the essay, this is the only way that this admissions person, reader, so to speak, is going to get to know them. They have probably 3 minutes, to
So you
make
have
to make that reader turn the page.
Exactly, exactly. And we were talking too about competition with the colleges getting in, but the UC system has changed so much too. Can you talk about that?
Sure. When we talk about the UC system, let's be really clear what we're talking about. We're talking about the University of California, and this is not the Cal States. This is a separate system. It's schools such as UCLA, UC Berkeley, UC Santa Barbara, UC Santa Cruz. And these schools have become so much more competitive today to enter into. The bar has been raised. But the University of California Board of Regents has implemented 2 pretty significant changes this year. One is, we have never seen this before, a wait list. And so I really caution kids not to freak out if they get a letter or two being put on a wait list for the University of California.
Not all the schools, just some of them.
Yeah, well, two won't. UCLA will not opt for the wait list, and Merced will not opt for the wait list, but the rest will. And so that's a change, and that's because we're over-enrolled now. The University of California is over-enrolled by about 15,000 kids.
Oh.
And it's a delicate balancing act between enrollment numbers and state funding. So they're using these wait lists now. The second change that we've seen that's very significant is the class of 2012. They get a little bit of a break now. They no longer are required to take the subject area tests. And just to clarify, the subject area tests used to be called the SAT-2s. This is different from the SAT-1. And typically we saw kids that were in the higher level classes, the AP classes, being the ones that were best prepared for those subject area tests. So what would happen is it would preclude a student who didn't have those advanced classes from really being able to compete for the University of California. So they have decided to remove and waive that requirement. However, we have to be realistic. The students that come in that want to still go to UCLA or Berkeley, we need to make sure that they do take those tests because they will be looked at in the process if they score well on them.
Wow. All I can say
never
is
ends.
it never ends. But I want to, speaking of never ending though, unfortunately, all the information that you've given us today has been so invaluable. I would love to continue and just to have all this information explained. And so you'll have to come back. You'll have to come back.
Okay.
But thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here today.
Sure.
It's really an honor and a pleasure and total education. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is such a special, wonderful blessing because we get to talk to 3 graduating high school seniors who have gone through the college admission process, and we get to hear from them personally about their experiences, about their focus, about how they didn't let stress totally eat them up, and about their wonderful experience. So I get to talk to Blake Tirico, to Caitlin Nelson, and to David Lillington. I am so thrilled to have you here today. I have to tell you on a personal note that looking at you and knowing that you are the future of our country just makes me so excited. So that's on a personal note for me, and I just can't thank you enough for being here today. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
So Dave, let's start with you. David Lillington, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'll be going to Duke University next year. I applied early decision,
Which means?
which means that I committed to the university by applying, and I also applied to a few other schools, but I had to rescind my applications there because I committed already to Duke by applying early.
Okay. And you have a background not only in, you play 5 musical instruments, you're also from engineering, you have a background in science, and yet you want to go to Duke and major in economics and then ultimately end up on?
On Wall Street, that's correct. I would like to become an investment banker.
And you feel that Duke then is the right choice for you for what you want to study?
I think so. I really wanted a Gothic campus. As weird as that may sound, the campus is very important to me.
Gothic? Did you say?
Gothic,
Gothic
yes,
campus.
the
okay.
architecture.
All right.
And I also wanted somewhere where I could have fun but still be very serious about my studies, as well as get a world-class education. So I think Duke is the place for me.
All right. Well, you have some illustrious graduates from Duke, too.
Yes, Richard Nixon, President Richard Nixon.
So that's really, it's wonderful to go to a university that has everything that you want and everything that's a good fit for you, right?
Right.
Can you imagine doing this college application process all on your own with no help?
I could not imagine it. It's been wonderful having Suzanne and Wendy being able to help and read my essays, help me with all the questions I've had. Like the questions she read off earlier were just amazing, and I'm so thankful that they were able to help me through it, because I wouldn't even have applied to Duke, I don't think, if I hadn't had them.
Well, just from me listening to the questions, as I said, it sounded like a foreign language. And so they're able to navigate and leave you totally de-stressed, Blake, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Definitely help with organizing and getting you underway with the whole process, because at first it's like really intimidating to just put your foot in the water and start, but they really get the ball rolling and help you understand what all those terms are that they said earlier, and just to sort of dive in head first into the pool and get underway through the whole process.
So speaking of diving first and head in first, you're going across the country to New York University. Tell us about what you're going to do there.
Yes, I'm going to study music production there at the Clive Davis School of Recorded Music, which is a special program there in their Tisch School of the Arts.
You're pretty humble. I understand of all the students who apply there throughout the entire world that they only take 20 students.
I was one of 9 or 10 that they accepted early decision, which I applied early decision like David, and my class size is supposed to be in total like 20 or 24 like students, so yeah.
So do you have a total goal in life that you want to be a?
I would like to do music production and audio engineering, so like a lot of the behind the scenes work in like the music industry, and a lot of the audio engineers and music producers also work with film and audio like this show and all sorts of other things, but I'd mainly like to work in the music industry.
That's awesome, and I understand that Clive Davis phoned you personally to do an interview on the phone.
Yes, I interviewed with like the Clive Davis board, and there was a board of people who I interviewed with and had talked to them as part of my application to them.
You know, I'm looking at you and you're all smiling. You don't seem stressed out at all. What's the secret? Caitlin, what's the secret?
I believe the secret is kind of just organizing and planning out in like timely manner, and make sure that you space it out enough that you can get it all done at a certain like time period. And just having organization skills helps so much.
And you want to do,
I want to do kinesiology.
I can't even say the word. Say it again.
Kinesiology.
Kinesiology, which is the study of?
Like physical therapy and sports.
Great. And then minor in?
Probably business. Maybe, I don't know, I was considering a double major if that happens, because I really love business and kinesiology and I couldn't decide.
Well, you're an avid tennis player, and you've been very, very physical, but you also have very great organization skills. You're the president of a wonderful group at school.
It's National Cherry League. It's a group where our mothers and daughters come together, and it begins in 7th grade and ends senior year. We actually just made like our closing ball last weekend. And you just help out the community and go around, and if people are in need, you just donate hours towards them. And junior year, I was president, and it was actually a great experience because it showed me how to like control an environment and how to like lead. It gave me leadership skills, and it was a great experience.
And you want to go ultimately to?
UCLA.
UCLA, that other school, right?
The other school.
So are there some things that you'd like to say to the viewing audience regarding the whole college application process?
I think one of the best things you can do is actually to go visit the college before you apply, or research it in extreme depth so you know what you're getting into, as well as to think about applying early decision or early action, or a regular decision, whether you want your decision sooner or later, and not to procrastinate. It's probably the biggest.
Not to procrastinate, but knowing the deadlines, and then knowing the deadlines, because you said...
That makes it worse.
That makes it worse. And then just having a really balanced, try to have a balanced life around the whole thing. How about you, Caitlin? What would be your advice to the students who are applying for college?
My advice would be to start early. Definitely start early.
Start in the 7th grade.
Maybe like during summer, you start your essays, just have some ideas in your head, write it down. Because once you like get the prompt, you already know like basically what you're gonna say, and it helps so much.
Once you get the
prompt, the essay prompt, the question.
Oh, the prompt. Okay, okay, I didn't realize that there was a name on that too. Oh my golly, so many things have changed. So then you can begin thinking about your essay, just like Wendy said, to just be real, be natural, and
Be
talk
yourself.
about, be yourself, right? What'd you write about for your college essay?
I actually wrote about how my brother has a disorder called hypochondroplasia, and it's where his bones don't grow normally like other kids. And so when he was younger, he was very short. And so I wrote about my difficulties living with that and how so much stress has been put on me and how it was just so hard for me to deal with that and like my family like putting all the pressure on me. And it actually was like a good lesson because I learned that like just seeing him going through all that pain and suffering, how it like showed me that like just it's all worth it in the end.
That's
because
beautiful.
he's now of normal height and he's the most amazing person ever and he has the greatest outlook on life and he's so happy. So
I
it's
love
good.
this. I was going to say, can I read that essay? I know that's a beautiful, beautiful.
It actually made my mom cry.
I'm sitting here about ready to tear up myself. I really am. That's absolutely beautiful. Caitlin, thank you so much for sharing that. Okay. And Blake, what would be your advice for students applying to college?
My advice
Thank you,
for
Caitlin.
any student that's applying to music or art or any sort of field where you need to send a lot of supplemental work, and I would definitely, they usually give you a list of things that they need to see and things that they want to see. I would definitely advise them or everyone who's applying to try to do as many as of the optional things that they ask of you, because that really makes a difference, I felt, in my application. And some of the stuff is going to be too difficult to do, or you think it's too difficult to do, but you might as well try and send in the extra work and just sort of put in that extra effort. Like Caitlin and David said, start early.
Start now.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can't tell you how really honored I am to talk to you today. And I also want to wish you just the absolute best. And as I said, looking at you, I feel so good. Even looking at your patriotic tie, these are the good news stories, and I really, really congratulate you. And I know that our country is going to be a lot better because of what you're going to do. So, God bless you, and thank you so much for being here today.
Thank
I can't
you.
thank you enough. So we've just heard from Blake and David and Caitlin about the colleges of their choices. But talk to us about how parents afford to send their kids to college.
It's very expensive now. Even the state schools are quite expensive. What we realize is that not everybody is able to apply for federal or state funding. And these parents still need help in the process of financing their child's education. These private schools can run anywhere from $40,000 to $50,000 a year, and maybe even more if they're on the East Coast. So what we do with the kids is we're very careful to put a list of schools together where we know they're going to get something called merit money. This is where their profile, whether it's their GPA, their SAT, their extracurriculars, something about them stands out above the norm of that school. And if we do that, we're very careful to do that, we can almost assure them that they'll get some type of merit money. We have students that get full rides, and these are not straight A students.
Not straight A.
And these aren't even A/B students. We had a student that was
It's
probably
amazing.
one of the lower students we've ever had who received $15,000 a year in scholarship money. And talk about feeling good about yourself and your self-esteem. So it may not be that it's your first choice college, but that's a lot of money that a student doesn't have to take out in a loan, and a lot of money that parents don't have to borrow.
This is really exciting news. As I said, I wish I were starting all over again and starting with you. It's just really wonderful what you do. You give so much to help these students. What do you get back in return?
Well, I think just looking at their faces and seeing the appreciation is part of it. And also, I think that we try to take the stress out of the process, and there's always stress in the family, and we kind of smooth that out and talk to the kids and get to know them, and I think in return they feel grateful for that. So
It becomes a family. I mean, Wendy and I have to say honestly, we take them on as our own kid. We don't take that many seniors on, and when we take somebody on, it has to be the right fit for both of us. And we worry about them just like their mothers worry about them. We're up at night calling each other, we're emailing each other in the middle of the night, we're thinking about them, we're driving somewhere, we're thinking about them.
And
we take them on.
And during the actual application process, we're up 24/7, and the kids are IMing me at 3 in the morning.
Wendy
if they're in
doesn't sleep.
If they're in China. So we've worked with kids all over the world. We've worked with kids in Taiwan. We've worked with kids in Hong Kong, and they could be emailing me at 3 in the morning.
And what do you want from these kids? Final question. What do you want from these kids?
We want them to be happy. We want them to be happy,
Successful.
balanced, not stressed out, and we want them to feel good about themselves
That's
and
the
have
bottom
good
line.
self-esteem. And we are changing lives. I think anybody that goes into education goes into it for the same reason.
Mm-hmm.
You love children, and you know you can make a difference.
Well, you certainly made a difference today, and thank you so much.
Thank
I
you,
really
Maureen.
appreciate your
Maureen.
being here. God bless you. Continued
Thank
success to the
you.
wonderful work you're doing.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you. And thank you so much for being with us on Family Focus. See you next time.